Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reiki Rays 10th Annual Global Reiki Healing Summit. My name is Yolanda, and I'm here today with the beautiful Andrea Kennedy. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yes, well, you have been a part of the summit for so many years. I'm sure so many people watching are already familiar with you and your work. But before we get into the conversation, I just want to give a bit of your background. So let's let everyone know a little bit about Andrea. Andrea Kennedy is a full-time Reiki master teacher at Mainstream Reiki. Her focus is to bring Reiki further into the mainstream and help others confidently practice this modality for better living. She teaches all levels of Yusui Holy Fire 3 Reiki, offers mentoring and channeling sessions, and shares her knowledge through her Mainstream Reiki YouTube channel, her podcast, and now in her new Mainstream Reiki community that is dedicated to empowering Reiki practitioners to succeed both personally and professionally. Andrea earned a Bachelor of Science degree in physics before taking her first Reiki class in 1995. In addition to completing her Reiki education, she is a practitioner of several holistic modalities, but chooses to focus her work primarily on Reiki and spiritual development. She has performed thousands of Reiki sessions for both animals and people as a volunteer and as a professional. She prioritizes quality, ethics, and professionalism in all she does. And I just want to say as well, you share some incredible content on social media. So all of
Oh,
the ways to
thank you.
connect with you are down below.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Yeah, there's so many different ways these days to get the word out or
Yes.
to provide tips and support and perspective.
Yes. I mean, you do put very useful content, I would say. Yeah. That people should definitely check it, all of that out. The links are below, of course. But I'm so excited about what we're talking about today because this is something that a lot of people are very interested in. And it's about awakening our inner seer and how we can work with Reiki to really ignite and develop our own intuitive and psychic gifts. And so before we get into too deep into the conversation, I just want to know about your experience, Andrea. How did Reiki help to awaken you to your own intuition?
Well, I would say that coming from that science background, you know, that was a big part of who I was. I put all of my emphasis, you know, all of my focus on developing mentally, you know, so I was very good in school and I would study and all of that. But at the same time, I was so curious about why are we even here, you know, and all those big spiritual questions that I am sure people watching this or listening to this can relate to. You know, we want to have those answers to the bigger picture. And so the whole idea of psychic abilities fascinated me from for as long as I can remember. So I had both of those. I had the science, you know, perspective, but then I had that curiosity. And I wondered if that was a mental thing, if psychic abilities came through the mind. And so it wasn't until I learned Reiki and actually distance Reiki
Mm.
that things really started to shift for me because it was in distance Reiki that I started seeing images and I had a knowing about what it was that the Reiki was working on with the
Mm.
person. So I had no explanation for what in the world allowed me to know those things. So that was fascinating and it was a little unsettling, you know,
Yeah.
also. But at the same time, Reiki doesn't harm. Reiki is supportive. Reiki is healing. And so I had this confidence that as I was offering the distance Reiki and I was receiving the information, there had to be a certain level of, mm, I'll say, oh gosh, safety in
Mm.
that. That's the word I want to use. And so that helped me trust what I was perceiving and the fact that I had no, I call it a thought trail. I didn't have a thought trail in my mind, which I was so used to. I couldn't trace back the information. It was just there in my mind. And so I couldn't explain it. But then when it was accurate, when it turned out to be accurate, then it was like full steam ahead
Mhm.
because it was that curiosity in the safe container of Reiki. And that was super exciting for me.
Yeah. You bring up a couple of points that are really interesting in that. One, I think there's so much evidence of Reiki being so intuitive, and the distant sessions are a really big part of that. But also, you mentioning the safety part.
Mhm.
And I just want to ask you about that because a lot of people have fear around, what they may perceive or even the idea that they can perceive anything beyond the physical. And so there are a lot of questions of like, can I protect myself and all of these things? And it sounds like you're saying just because of the nature and the essence of what Reiki is, you kind of felt that safety of a built-in protection. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I did. Back in the day, I didn't have fear because there wasn't anything scary about it.
Right.
If I saw an image of the person or that area of their body, if I got some medical words in my mind, what was scary about that?
Right.
And so, as far as, things outside of that, I didn't really worry about it because when I was offering the Reiki, I felt as though I am channeling this high frequency energy and it's about love and help and support and compassion and all of that. So I did. I just felt as though everything was in alignment with that.
It's interesting because, again, it's like having Reiki as the foundation, I would think would be a very different experience than maybe someone who is trying to open up intuitively or psychically without that kind of foundation. Because I think a lot of times what we tune into may have some kind of relationship to our own energetic resonance or, what is going on
Mhm.
with us in terms of frequency. So could you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about, why you may feel that Reiki is safe and effective way for us to enter this realm of perception?
Yeah, because I think that we hear it all the time, maybe say it all the time, Reiki and intention, right?
Yeah.
Intention and Reiki go together. Well, if we are intending to channel Reiki energy, by the very definition, and I've often called it creationary energy, but it's such a high vibration energy. It is spiritually guided, meaning it has a wisdom to it. What better companion can we have with us as we begin to develop, ourselves in that way? I would say that, for me, it was that gateway. And people may know me from, the podcast that was called Beyond the Reiki Gateway. And this is really why, I
Yeah.
had settled on that name early on. But what what Reiki offers us is a framework, is a container, is that mm, I have to just say safe place. Because if we are bringing through such light in that moment, I'm not myself in that moment, you know? Before I ever do a Reiki session, I actually do this. And my intention is I set all my personal energy to the side. So you mentioned, we bring ourselves, to things, and that's very true. But with intention and Reiki, we can set our personal stuff to the side. It's like pick that junk up later because we all have junk. We're all dealing with stuff and we have low vibrational days and low vibrational, ooh, elements to our field some days or whatever it is. But it doesn't matter because when we're channeling Reiki, and we have that intention to share it with ourselves or other people, we are engaged with that energy that though lower frequency energies or beings, if you want to call it that, there's no docking point for that. There's no um, agreement point to enter into any kind of an energetic relationship because the light is so bright, so high vibrational that it just doesn't attract that. You know, like attracts like.
Yeah.
So be in the Reiki light.
Well, I have to ask you this too. So prior to having this come into your awareness and having this realization of like, wow, these insights are coming in and um, I didn't make this up. I didn't think this up. Had you had any prior experience with anything like another psychic, or did you already have ideas about what psychic work would be or might be because of even entertainment?
I don't remember if I'd had a psychic reading by that point. I might have.
Hmm.
Somebody probably, showed me cards or something,
Yeah.
but if I could find something on TV or, because this was way back. I mean, this was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So the internet wasn't what it was,
Right.
so you couldn't just like flip on YouTube and go look for stuff. It was a different world. So I was kind of limited, but my idea of psychic awareness and that kind of thing, I go back to there was an Oprah Winfrey show that came on TV, and she had Carolyn Mace on
Oh,
medical intuition. And that was the topic. And she just blew me away
mhm.
because that to me was psychic because she could take a name and a date of birth and diagnose the person, never having seen them or anything. And I thought, wow, that is so neat. So
Mhm.
you see, I was so intrigued by all of those topics. And again, not fearful, because I think for myself, I entered in to the psychic side coming
Mhm.
at it from the mental. Remember, I
Yes.
mentioned that early on. I had that science and that emphasis on my mind and the mental power, and I was very sure of the mind body connection. I knew I was very certain about that. And so, from my view, it wasn't spooky because I wasn't thinking about spirits. I was thinking about mental ability.
Uh,
So it was
yeah.
just a different framework. And then when I added Reiki to that, it was like, oh, I can do this practice and I can, that it's two worlds colliding in the
Yes.
best of ways. But I would say I think that's probably what really helped me was coming at it from the mental side and not the spiritual side. I think a lot of people do come to it from.
Yeah. And it's interesting listening to you too, Andrea. It sounds like the curiosity really created a lot of openness as well. And so there are a lot of people in this realm, no matter what brings us in, but a lot of Reiki practitioners, because of even the slightest of experiences, whether it's doing remote work or laying of hands and you start to sense or perceive things, a lot of people are curious, but may feel a bit intimidated by this and not knowing, how to further develop, or we get that doubt coming in where you question, is this even true? Can I, like, me? So, for anyone who is intimidated by this, do you have any recommendations?
Well, I do. There can be a lot of different reasons people might be intimidated. And you did bring up fear. So that's kind of, to me, that's kind of a separate thing. But if somebody's intimidated about the could I do that? Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. I have zero doubt about that. And one of the ways Reiki helps with that,
Mhm.
I think that as we practice Reiki on ourselves, but we receive Reiki as we offer it, I think that it helps to heal us. It helps to heal those blocks or those perceptions about ourselves that keep us small and that keep us doubting who we are energetically. And so I think just simply by practicing with the energy, we naturally begin to walk that path of, I will say, stepping into that natural ability that I believe all people have, but it's just kind of covered up,
Right.
with limiting beliefs, doubts, fears, whatever it is. And, memories of every day before then that they weren't intuitive, right?
Yes.
So you just kind of, I think, expect what you got yesterday for today, and then when you do that enough times, you begin to form beliefs about yourself like, oh yeah, I could never do that. It's just
Right.
not true. I mean, Reiki's a game changer, and I think that it works um, subtly with us. It also can work less subtly, but um, it works with us even when we're not sure what it's helping us with. And I think that's one of the reasons that Reiki people do report they have better and better intuition.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
because they're actually healing what's preventing them from knowing themselves that way.
I love that you're highlighting, because I believe this too, that the practice of Reiki, regardless of what we may think it's going to be, it does start to unlock our natural gifts, just like you said, our natural abilities. And I think that's a really interesting thing to know, that it's not like something is being gifted to us or we were specially selected, but rather this is just these different aspects of our function that we were just unaware of or hadn't given attention to yet. And to your point, that process of practice that starts to clear away what was veiling us from seeing or understanding how we work.
Right. Yes. Well, and I will say too, for myself, I wasn't a spiritual person, you
Hmm.
know. I didn't meditate or anything.
Yeah.
And so when I look back, when I started to really practice distance Reiki, my focus was not on myself.
Okay.
So, like in self Reiki, I would maybe focus on myself. But in truth, I wasn't really good at keeping up with self Reiki back then.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
didn't know people around me that knew Reiki. So it
Right.
was a little isolating. So when I started with the distance Reiki, it afforded me a quiet mind in a way that I didn't set time aside to have before, you see. So I was creating the opportunity to tune in and receive information. And I think that's a big part of it. And maybe I would have developed different things, different insights, had I meditated regularly.
Yeah.
But I wasn't drawn to that. And if I ever did that before, it was here and there and sporadic and maybe a guided meditation. So the practice of Reiki, because we come into the moment and we're focused and present, and we're not thinking 10,000 thoughts, like we normally do, that also helps us notice what is probably there for so many of us. It's just we're distracted all the time. So
Yeah.
I think that's important too, is it's part of what we need to do is make room to listen, right? And so I think if our viewers and the listeners, if they aren't setting time aside and quieting the mind, do that. Whether it's meditating, journaling, and taking time during the journaling process, or Reiki sessions, and perhaps do a distance session. And I'll I'll give everybody a little exercise if they want to do it. And that is, in distance Reiki, we're focusing on another person, right? And we're sending Reiki to that person or offering Reiki to that person. And a cool exercise, if you haven't done it before, is send it to yourself.
Mm.
So some people use a surrogate or, a drawing or a doll or teddy bear or something like that. Intend that that focus of your session is you. So instead of doing self Reiki with your hands on your body or just in your field, actually do a distance Reiki session that way. So your focus is outside your body as though you're sending it to someone else, but it's really you. And you can have quite an interesting experience with that. But it's a way to do self Reiki from a different angle, so to
Yeah.
speak, where people may get more intuitive information about themselves.
Yeah. That's a really cool exercise. I'm going to try that out myself. Thank you for that tip. Um,
Yes.
but you also bring up um, the process of our minds. And when you were saying what you were saying, I couldn't help but think of as well. When I first started, I was thinking a lot. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just even with society, we're all trained in a lot of ways to be very analytical.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what we are conditioned to focus on. And
Mm-hmm.
so, even when we come into this work, there's often a lot of noise of the mind of wanting to get it right. Am I doing this? And even if we're in a session, people may be worried, like, oh, are they feeling it? Or, all the things that come into the mind. Yeah. And so, luckily for me, I started meditation classes and Reiki at the same time. So, I kind of had a you know, playing back and forth with that. But a lot of people don't. So I just wanted to emphasize this point that you're making of how important it is for us to also practice being quiet, being
Mm-hmm.
in those states of stillness. And you being such an analytical person, I mean, you studied physics even. Could you give any tip of that? If someone maybe hasn't fully developed a meditation practice,
Mm-hmm.
do you have some simple tips of how to just get quiet? If the word meditation is intimidating in and of itself.
Yeah. Well, number one, I'm going to just say do Reiki because
Yeah.
the energy itself will help calm you. The energy itself has been shown to benefit people in the same ways meditation has been proven to benefit people. I mean, it's just so to me, I look at Reiki as a way to meditate.
Yeah.
Um, and what I would say for myself is my mind would wander. And I mean, I was totally agreeing with everything you were saying. I mean, I would be making a grocery list or what do I going to do later? And yes, and then the practitioner worries, are they feeling it? Da, da, da. And I had to really smile when you were saying that kind of thing because when I came to Reiki, I needed step one, do it like this, step two, and that's where I started. So
Yeah.
I was not intuitive at all. I didn't even feel the energy when I started.
Yeah.
So I was like ground zero. So I just want to say that because if I can become intuitive, anybody can become intuitive. But all of that stuff, what worked for me is I would remind, so for one thing, if I'm in a session and I'm offering it and I find myself wandering, I go, oh, and I would say Reiki for Yolanda, Reiki for Yolanda, Reiki for Yolanda, whatever their name is. I like to
Yeah.
use their name, and I come back.
Mm.
And when I say it the three times, it really gets me back into where my focus is, and that is with the energy, with that person, and that'll work for me. And so it's just kind of that introducing that. And I don't know if you would call that a mantra or whatever, but basically it's a mindfulness exercise because you catch yourself thinking and you refocus. You
Yeah.
catch yourself thinking and you refocus. And over time, it's just you catch yourself thinking fewer and fewer times because you
Right.
can focus for extended periods. But let's not forget, Reiki is relaxing. Reiki helps your brain activity calm down into the alpha level,
Yes.
and theta if are with it for a while. So that in and of itself is helping support the practitioner. Now, as far as all the stuff about are they feeling it? Is it going to be, and about the session, the thing that always would get me through, because I was a big doubter, And there were sessions I didn't feel a thing,
Mhm.
but I knew from previous times that if I didn't feel something, that didn't mean that the recipient didn't feel something.
Right.
And because that I learned early on that it didn't match up, that was
Mhm.
helpful to me.
Yeah.
And so what I would do, and I'm telling you, my from to this day, I remind myself, oh, just trust the Reiki. The Reiki's working it out. And I know that what I perceive, what the other person perceives, is not an indicator of the level of help that they're actually receiving. I
Mhm.
know that for certain. I have zero doubt about that. And so I just remind myself, if I have a doubting moment, I don't really feel much or whatever, I remind myself, just trust the Reiki, just trust the Reiki. And I remind myself too to let go of any attachment to the outcome.
Listening to you, Andrea, I'm thinking this would have been so helpful to have heard all those years ago. And I'm just thinking how incredible it is. I think how helpful it will be for so many people to hear what you've shared so far. I mean, really, truly. And another thing that's really important in this realm as it comes to psychic development and intuitive development, could you talk a little bit about how Reiki can support us with discernment and
Mm,
also energetic boundaries?
yes. Yeah. So, my big thing lately is I will tell anybody who will listen, we are sovereign in our energy.
Yeah.
This is my biggest message these days. And what that means is we are in our bodies and we have this energy and we are in charge of our energy. And I want to invite everybody to claim that as truth because we would never come to earth like an open sore energetically where anybody could just hurt us at their whim. But I think we've been conditioned, and we've had experiences that have been painful or whatever else, and people didn't respect our free will or our boundaries. And yes, that can be true. But now is the time on the planet, from my perspective, that we need to say enough is enough. This is my energy. I'm in control of this energy. So
Mhm.
nobody drains me unless I agree to it on some level. It's
Right.
certainly not all conscious, right? But I think half of it, or at least half of it, is just deciding I'm in charge of my energy. And that's the way I roll.
Yeah.
And when you shift that in yourself, boundaries form as a result. I'm telling you, it's true. And um, so I'm going to say that. And the other thing I'm going to say is I think Reiki makes us, uh, Reiki helps our awareness. And one of the most common things that I would hear from clients is life was happening up here for them,
Mm.
and they were just reacting all the time
Yeah.
to life. And then after they receive Reiki a few times, they're like, it's more like I can respond to things. I'm not reacting to things.
Yeah.
So, as a practitioner, oh, that's totally built into that, right? So, if our clients are feeling that, imagine how a practitioner can develop that. And so, as we develop awareness, we see and observe people and relationships and situations from a new direction, from a new knowing
Yes.
and a wisdom. And life isn't happening to us. And that right there, I think, helps construct healthy boundaries. So the boundaries, protection, there's a lot being said about that in the world.
Yes.
Um, and I tend to think Only my 2 cents. But what I tend to think is, I think we don't need to talk about it so much. If
Mhm.
we just make some decisions about who we are and how we're showing up in the world, and we've got Reiki on our side, I think a lot of that is taken care of. I mean, if
Yeah.
we think back when we were children, or young, or maybe 20, or 25, or whatever, ooh, you know, if we think back to those days, you know, for me that was another life. I didn't think about energetic protection,
Right.
and I moved through life pretty well, right?
Yes.
So something behind the scenes is happening. So I don't think we have to be that worried about
Yeah.
it. Claim your energy, claim your sovereignty, and respond to life instead of react to life. Because when you become an observer and when you have awareness, you have choice then. You
Mhm.
have choice. And that leads into the fear piece because, you know, sometimes people are afraid they're going to see things, and I'm sure they have. I haven't really had that um, experience, but I also have um, said to the universe, to myself, like, yeah, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna see, I'm gonna feel, I'm gonna know what's in alignment with my highest good, and I just have that intention, and that's how I move through the world. Does that mean I'll never see something that's unpleasant? Probably not. I don't know. But I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to be fearful. Because one thing's for sure, if we're fearful, then we're owning the vibration of that fear.
Right.
And like vibration attracts like vibration. We know this.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to just worry about myself, my own outlook, and how I show up. And I think that coupled with all of the wonderful things that are happening behind the scenes that we're not aware of to support us,
Yeah.
that's how I move through life.
Some more great advice. I have to say, like even you saying about, um, claiming or even reclaiming our sovereignty and not highlighting the fearfulness. You
Mhm.
remind me so much of even that impact of even when you say sitting in our Reiki sessions or being in a meditative state, it's the direction of mind that allows us to soften, allows the nervous system to soften, and allows that space, that clarity, that ability then to become aware of higher mind and intuition. But also with what you're recommending, that direction of mind then becomes what we amplify. So I think, again, that's something so helpful for people listening. Like, are you amplifying the fear? Are you amplifying your sovereignty and your intent? That's really, really beautiful. So I have to ask you this before time goes by so quickly. I know that you are channeling now. So could you tell us how your intuitive journey then developed and evolved into channeling?
Oh, yes. Well, my whole life, it was like there was like this little tiny thread of wisdom,
Mhm.
and I could just randomly tap into that. And it was profound,
Yeah.
even as a child, but it was just happenstance. Remember, I mentioned the Oprah
Yes.
episode with Carolyn Mace? So it's a crazy long story, and I won't go into it, but within a week of seeing that show,
Yeah.
in my mailbox was a full color postcard. Come to Egypt for a workshop with Carolyn Mace.
Wow.
I know I had never been anywhere. I didn't have a passport, and the company that sent it, I'd never even heard of them before.
Wow.
It was the first thing they ever sent me. Long story short, I went to Egypt.
Did you?
I did. I did. And to my dismay, the workshop was on archetypes. It wasn't on medical intuition. So I was like, oh, but the universe has wonderful plans.
Yeah.
So I sat there and I, again, was not a spiritual person or anything. At that point, I only had Reiki 1.
Okay.
And there I was. And I sat there and I thought, what's my archetype? What's like a 20 something would do?
Mhm.
And I felt like such a fish out of water, with the people that had come to the
Yes.
workshop. So about 3:30 in the morning, I wake up and it's in the hotel and all these thoughts and words and phrases and were in my mind. And I tried so hard to get back to sleep and I couldn't. And so, I didn't want to wake up my roommate. So I went to the bathroom with my notebook. And I think that's the first time I ever channeled in writing.
Oh, wow.
And it was about my archetype. And I knew I did not make that up.
Yeah.
It was unmistakable. And it's true to this day. What came through on that cold floor in the hotel uh, in Egypt is true today.
It is incredible the things that happen. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, you
No.
know, and they're the best stories. That's one thing in this community. You hear the most incredible stories that just keep you in awe
Yeah.
of this and our experiences. But I want to ask you too. So, even thinking back to that experience and then where you are now with your channeling, does it feel like, what does it feel like to you? Does it feel like a conversation with your higher self? Does it feel like some type of higher guidance that has always been there?
So in my case, it was years later that I did a regression.
Mm,
And well, I think my first inkling was it was some yeah, it was a past life regression. That's correct. And I met this group of beings that I'm actually a part of, and that's who I channel primarily.
okay.
And so they're called the emissaries of light. And so it's a group of 12, and I'm the only one in a body right now. And I know it sounds really crazy, to talk about that kind of thing, maybe for some people, but really that's my life. So,
Yeah.
so what happened with that was I thought, well, what do I do with that? Well, I started writing in my journal. I just started notebooks and things like that. And it became, I would say, it's difficult to describe. I don't hear the words audibly, but it's just a stream of words. And then I started transcribing them. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like dictation and trying my very best to be as accurate as I possibly can. And so that's how that started. And then it has become now audible. So, or I mean, I'm speaking it, I should
Right.
say. They're pretty much, it's still the words coming. And so I do a monthly live stream, and that's really been transformative. There's been such a change since first started those during the pandemic. And it was all about me getting out of my own way because, talk about fear. It's hard. Integrity and authenticity, these are things that are my purpose. I have
Yeah.
whatever I do on the planet, I have to have integrity. I have to be authentic. I have to be true to that. And
Yeah.
so trying to be who I truly am and be in the world and show up like that, there's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is still fear, but it is a process. And so now I'm just speaking the words as they come. I remember I, it just depends. Sometimes I remember more than what I say than other times. It just varies, but we'll see. And I'm still learning. I'm still healing whatever fear I have. And so I feel like I left out something that you asked there, but um, that's
No.
just how it is that I do, how I do my channeling. I also channel the divine animal kingdom or
Oh,
my higher self. And so I think once we begin to channel, I
mhm.
think we can tune in to different streams of
Right.
consciousness, different levels of consciousness, and channel that. But I think again, just like intuition, it's something anyone can do if they have an interest in that and if they want to invest some time to learn about it and to practice.
Yeah, and actually, you have something upcoming that we'll talk about at the very end for anyone who is interested in learning how to develop the skill. But can I also ask, how do you see this relating to your Reiki foundation?
Ah, yes. I think that Reiki is a foundation I'll have forever and ever.
Hmm.
Reiki is so magical and mysterious.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a modality that is so special because all people can learn it and all people can practice it and all people can heal themselves, heal others, just bring more light into the world. Nobody's excluded.
Hmm.
And that so excites me because once we get comfortable with having energy that we can utilize, that blesses us, that heals us, that we're in partnership with, that lays that foundation for exploration of these things. Because what happens is Reiki's always going to help me be in tune with myself. And as long as I'm in tune with myself, as long as I can help myself with the energy, become grounded, heal, calm, respond to life, as long as I can do that, I can do anything. I mean, I honestly feel that way. So if there's something that interests me, I can do that because I can always come back to center. I can always come back to what I know through my Reiki practice.
Yeah.
So from that place, doors open for us.
Yeah. I love that you even describe it as being in partnership with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's so incredible. Again, I think that how you're saying what you're saying is so clear. And I say that again because I'm thinking about, what this journey is like for so many of us. And like you say, in the 90s, there wasn't even the internet, or definitely not how things are today, and how helpful it is to hear the things that you're sharing, but again, in ways that don't feel so far-fetched or don't feel unattainable to us. And I think so much of what you're sharing, Andrea, keeps bringing us back to recognizing what already is, and then our choice in strengthening those relationships and going deeper into our own development by choice. So I wanted to ask you too, for people who are already practicing Reiki, how can they begin to explore or strengthen their psychic or intuitive gifts?
Yeah. So what's coming to my mind is kind of interesting. It's unexpected. I'm going to share something that I did early on. People would talk about spirit guides and things like that, and you know, um, if you certainly don't need to believe in spirit guides to be a Reiki practitioner.
Right.
So I don't want to even put that out there. But I know a lot of people in the audience are interested in spirit guides. And when I started to practice on my family members,
Mm,
what I started to do, because after I would do the distance session and I would see things, in that session with the people, I would be like, wow. So then I took it to the next level. And so then I would be with someone in person and they would lay down on my Reiki table that I had. And what I would do is I would begin my session, put all my personal energy to the side, it's
Yeah.
part of what I do, and I would begin channeling Reiki energy. And there I would be, and I would be at their crown, and my head would be down like this, and the energy would be coming through. And then I would use that time, instead of worrying, are they feeling things, I
Yeah.
would instead I would be constructive. And so here's what I did in the early days. I said, all right, and I'm saying this to myself. I said, when I raise my gaze, I will see all spirit guides and energies present for this person that are in my highest good
Mm.
to perceive. And then I would do just that, and I'd raise my head and I would look. And I'm telling you, that's how I began to see the energies.
Wow.
So that's something that people can try.
Yeah.
And remember, it's your intention, right? So I didn't say, show me everything in the world. I
Right.
just said, show me these energies that are in my highest good to perceive,
Yes.
because I don't want to see everything, and we
Yeah.
don't have to.
That is, I feel like you have just packed us with so many great tips throughout this conversation. No, really, truly. And, again, we don't get to have you all day, but I do want to ask you as well, because a lot of people consider intuitive and psychic development like just an association with divination or, fortune telling or these kinds of things. But could you share a little bit about how awakening this part of our natural ability, as you say, how can it really help us to just live more fully into our purpose?
Now, one of the things that I found was an inner barometer. And what I mean by that is, as I began noticing my intuition and my perception heightening, and there's so much I could say, Yolanda. It's so hard to not, be with you for 3 hours. But whew, so I have to whittle it down. Um, but what I started noticing is all of my senses became better.
Mm,
So I could, and I would invite everyone who hears this or watches this, notice, please notice this, because I think they're probably already perceiving beyond the norm,
right.
but they don't recognize it. So here's an example of that. Um, in a Reiki session, I would hear I mean, like supersonic hearing. And that was out of the norm. The light around my hands, just the energy around my hands, I could, with my eyes open, begin to see a difference.
Yeah.
So it's not a lightning bulb moment, that happens. Um, it's probably there and you just haven't recognized it. So
Yes.
just look for those things. And I veered off. And so, what was your question, Yolanda?
How this,
Sorry.
no, 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 how awakening to this really does help us to go deeper into our purpose or living our purpose.
Yes, yes, I remember the barometer, right? So
Yeah.
as I started to perceive more clearly through my senses, what I also noticed was a resonance and a dissonance in my body.
Mm,
And so when something aligned, when there's a yes, when there's an alignment, I would feel a rising in my midline of my body.
yeah.
And then when something was out of line, not good. I
Yeah.
don't like to say not good, but not in alignment.
Yeah.
I would feel like a sinking feeling.
Hmm.
And then it was very interesting to me because I didn't set out to do that, but I put it in the category of just becoming more sensitive in my perceptions.
Yeah.
And so I could feel that in the body. And I call that my inner barometer, but it's something too that perhaps we can practice. So if I say something that's not true, my barometer, it falls, woo, and I feel it in my stomach.
Yeah.
If I say something that is true, like, like true with the universe, woo, I feel it rise. I feel that fullness. I feel that positive feeling in my body.
Hmm.
And that's something that people can do, you know, come up with a statement that is an absolute lie, but have it be something personal to you. Don't have it just be something random, you know. Come up with something that is not true about maybe your background or your education or an accomplishment you did not actually achieve,
Yeah.
and make a statement as though you're telling your best friend, like imagine that in your mind and imagine yourself saying that to someone you respect and care for, and then see in the body, feel in the body. Can you discern something there? And I bet so many people will be able to do that. And then on the flip side, say something about an accomplishment that you made, that you did achieve, that's
Yeah.
very true, and that you're proud of. And then say that and feel the difference in the body. And because here's the thing, with when we begin to tune in to that discernment,
Hmm.
that can guide your life. Because when you need to make a choice, you can imagine yourself taking this path. What does it feel like in the body? Imagine yourself taking, choosing the other path. What
Yeah.
does that feel like in the body? And I have done that throughout my life. It's like, how does that feel to me? Because our bodies and our energy, those are instruments for us to use to navigate through our life. How many times have we thought or heard somebody say something like, oh, well, we don't come with an instruction manual, and isn't that funny because it's like the instruction manual would have been written by somebody else and it's out here or whatever. And
Yeah.
and is that really the highest way for us to move about life? No, we
Mhm.
would an instruction manual like that, we wouldn't want that in the end
Right.
anyway. We've got all we need in here. We just need to tune in to that. And Reiki helps us do that because it helps us peel back the layers, heal the things keeping us from ourselves and that awareness about ourselves. And as we heal ourselves, we begin to perceive, observe, become more aware, not only about ourselves, but about life and about other people, relationships. And when we're in session with them, everything is naturally amplified for the highest good, of course. Of course.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, I love again, well, a couple of things. One, with you describing how we can have awareness around things, but also noting that we often have this expectation of some big, oh, like, some apparition is going to show up. And so because we have that expectation, we do often overlook what is already there and being experienced. So I'm so glad that you remind us all of this. But also, everything that you said, Andrea, I think it's beautiful in that it does remind us as well the beauty of this aspect of our design because there are a lot of stories and things wrapped around it. So, and it starts to naturally develop anyway, as you say, as we practice Reiki and we're clearing ourselves. Of course, we're going to become just more aware in so many ways. So, for people who do want to learn about channeling, you do have an upcoming workshop. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, it's going to begin January 15th, and we'll be meeting live for class. So on Zoom, but
Yes.
still live. And I want to help people tune into their higher self first and foremost, because my mission on the planet is to help people embody more of their higher self.
Mm.
Because when we do that, as an individual, we show up in a different way.
Yeah.
And we are more of the light that we always have been, are now, and forever shall be,
Yeah.
far beyond the limiting beliefs that we've held on to
Yeah.
in our lifetime. And so that is such a focus for me. And so channeling, we're going to begin with channeling the higher self. And what could be better than that?
Yeah.
So we're going to do that at the beginning and then we'll take it from there. But people will be channeling by the end of our course. And we'll do question and answer and all kinds of neat things, discussions and practice. So I'm very excited about it. January 15th.
That's incredible. So, of course, as I mentioned earlier, all of the ways to connect with you, your website, your classes, even the social media, like I told everyone they should see what you put out there. All of the ways to connect with Andrea are below this video. But you also have a gift for the audience. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that as well. Could you tell us a bit about the gift?
Yes, it's a guided self Reiki session. So it'll be kind of like this. I'll be on the screen and I'm going to invite you to activate your Reiki energy, and we're going to do a guided session. So we will have an intention in the session, and the session is from the mainstream Reiki membership community that I have. I do a live guided session every week. And so we have well over 100 sessions
Wow.
already recorded in there for playback anytime. But I really thought this session that we're sharing here at the summit is a very good and perhaps different way to practice self Reiki. So it might inject a little, I don't know, something new
Yeah.
to your practice. So I'm excited to share this session with everyone.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, it's a really generous offer. And again, even being a practitioner, I'm sure I could speak for so many of us in saying how much we appreciate having the ability to learn from other practitioners and teachers and having beautiful resources like this. So thank you so much, Andrea. And again, just thank you for taking the time to educate us all today. I mean, again, you gave us a lot of great tips and gems. So I thank you so very much.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. It's always a pleasure. And the summit is a great resource. So
Yeah.
thank you for hosting it again this year and the whole team to put this together for
Yeah.
practitioners because it really does make a difference.
Yes, Maria and the team are incredible. 10 years, and we're all so fortunate for that. So we will see all of you very soon. Be sure to go right under the video and connect with Andrea. We will see you soon.